The battle of blood and dragon frenzy between the black and green parties begins in earnest. The uncrowned princess in the first battle. She confronts the dragon commander Vhagar. Faced with a formidable enemy, the proud dragon knight does not flee, but meets the challenge head-on. Ultimately, he bravely meets his end. But this battle is only the beginning. How much more fierce will the subsequent confrontations be? In the previous season, King Viserys falls critically ill and dies. Led by Queen Alicent, the Green Party strips Princess Rhaenyra of her inheritance rights and crowns her son, Aegon, as king. Princess Rhaenyra also convenes a meeting of the Black Party. She teams up with Rhaenys and Sea Serpent to rally lords from various regions. She also sends her sons, Jacaerys and Lucerys, to visit Eagle's Nest, Winterfell, and Windswept Keep. She didn't expect that. Lucerys at Shipbreaker Bay was killed by Aemond's dragon Vhagar. Thus, the battle of blood and dragon frenzy is about to begin. The Stark family, since the era of Brandon, they has been in the north, becoming the oldest and most prestigious noble family. They have ruled Winterfell for thousands of years, in this land of severe cold, holding authority and influence. When a certain winter arrives, a new tradition is established here, where every 10 men in the north choose one to join the Night's Watch, not as punishment but as an honor. They guard the wall at the edge of the realm, to prevent external threats from invading. The Stark family swears to Jacaerys, they will not forget their oath and will be loyal to Rhaenyra. The prince came to request their support. Rhaenyra needs an army to maintain the unity of the kingdom. The great battle is imminent. Everyone cannot stand aside. Without the support of the north, they are unable to go to war. The leaders decide to send some old soldiers to join the battle. But at this moment, an urgent report from Dragonstone is handed over. It should be news of Lucerys's death. On the Dragonstone side, because the death of her second son, Queen Rhaenyra has not been seen for several days in a row. Her husband Daemon wants to unite with Rhaenys, to go to King's Landing, to kill the dragon Vhagar and its master Aemond, to avenge Lucerys. However, Rhaenys rejected his proposal. All decisions must wait for the Queen's return before being finalized. Meanwhile, Sea Serpent's fleet has blockaded the strait, aiming to prevent ships from entering Blackwater Bay, thus cutting off King's Landing's trade routes, to gain an advantage for the Black Party at sea. Inside King's Landing, Lord Aegon is convening a meeting. Their letters sent to the Vale and the North have not received replies. Yet Lord Aegon too remains calm. His brother Aemond has already become engaged to Miss Florent of Brightwater Keep, while the elder brother of the treasurer Tyrion is working hard to consolidate his position. They are not lacking in leverage to counter the Black Party. The army led by Otto's nephew Mond departed from Oldtown, expecting no resistance along the way, but faced interception in the Riverlands. The Black Party's blockade is becoming increasingly tight. Rhaenyra rejected Alicent's letter of apology. War is on the brink. Inside the meeting room, the atmosphere is heavy. Yet Lord Aegon too indulges his son Jacaerys, allowing him to disrupt the meeting order, even letting Tyrion play with his son. Alicent couldn't bear it. She had no choice but to have a servant take Prince Jacaerys out of the meeting room. Rhaenyra's blockade strategy puts King's Landing under tremendous pressure, and will escalate further, causing the military morale to falter. They need a new Minister of the Navy to strengthen the naval forces of Lannister and Hightower, in order to seek a strategy to break the blockade. Just then, Aemond also joined the meeting. He suggested using Harrenhal as a base. King Aegon too, however, was puzzled by this. He believed they could send out Vhagar to directly destroy the blockade fleet. But if they truly let dragons enter the war, the situation would be irreparable. King's Landing must proceed with caution. Unfortunately, the blockade has brought about shortages and a surge in iron prices. Wages of craftsmen are also being withheld. Livestock are being requisitioned as food for dragons. The people's lives are starting to become difficult. King Aegon II's response strategy is simple yet brutal. He proposed to pay off the owed wages and livestock to the people. But things are not that simple. Otto reminds the king, if they return the shepherd's sheep, other shepherds will make similar demands. After the meeting, King Aegon II was stopped by Lord Larys. Larys first praised his governing skills as equal to the former king's, then proceeded to sow discord. He hinted that Otto might be sidelining Viserys by controlling affairs. He warned King Aegon II to be careful. Meanwhile, Otto is discussing with Alicent the situation after Viserys' death. Alicent has no intention of starting a war. She hopes Rhaenys will kneel, and Aegon will peacefully ascend the throne. But Otto believes that, on the path to victory, violence is inevitable. Although Aemond is impulsive and stubborn, his loyalty to the family is unquestionable. He desires to please others. Now, once the novelty of Aegon's kingship wears off, victory is not far away. On the other hand, The Ironborn fleet is searching the cargo holds, originally looking for stowaways. They instead found a person, who is none other than Melissaria Whitegrub, Daemon's former lover and informant, but she once, for money's sake, sold crucial information to Otto, but she explained that it was purely a matter of self-interest, and she did not want to be loyal to the Hightower family. Daemon viewed her as a traitor and ordered her imprisonment. Eilic intervened in time to stop Daemon. He believed that Melissaria still had value to offer. Eilic, along with his twin brother Alec, became part of the Kingsguard of King's Landing, refusing to aid the Hightower family in seizing power. He betrayed his family and brother, offering the crown to Rhaenys and joining the Blacks. While they were arguing, they saw a dragon outside the window. It was Rhaenys returning. They went to greet the queen's return, and Rhaenys hastily called for a meeting. Daemon promised that he himself would go to Harrenhal to establish a stronghold in the Riverlands. Rhaenys reported that the blockade by the Ironborn in the Gullet was ready, cutting off all maritime trade routes to King's Landing. However, Rhaenyra spoke up, proposing to take Aemon's life. Daemon visited Melissaria late at night, knowing she had been selling information for years, and likely had many spies within the Red Keep. Daemon suggested that if Melissaria assisted in seeking revenge, Dragonstone would grant her freedom. Meanwhile, Jacaerys returned and reported to his mother that Lady Jane Arryn promised support, with the condition that a dragon be stationed in the Vale. Winterfell honors the oath to the Old King, with the Starks promising to provide 2,000 troops. Rhaenys holds her son, finding solace in each other. She conducts a farewell ceremony for her young son, burning his belongings. Daemon sneaks into King's Landing under the cover of night, locating the intermediary mentioned by Melissaria, a gambler well-versed in the Red Keep, who also carries significant gambling debts, making him a suitable candidate for assassination. Daemon pays half of the deposit up front, agreeing to pay the other half upon successful completion of the task. Meanwhile, Aemond is conversing with Corral, a knight who has become a supporter of Alicent since his falling out with Rhaenys. Since Aemond lost an eye due to Lucerys, Corral has been guiding him in swordsmanship. The two intend to conquer the royal lands, but Otto and Alicent will not agree. They still hold goodwill towards Rhaenys, and Aegon is their puppet. At this moment, Otto appears and orders Corral back to his post, leaving Aemond alone for a conversation. He points out that Aemond and Vhagar are already pillars of the kingdom, but there are still many changes. Although he desires to overthrow Rhaenys, he advises restraint at the moment and against using the dragons. Meanwhile, two assassins hired by Daemon infiltrate the Red Keep. The king is chatting with soldiers, and the assassins easily make their way through. The guide is unwilling to take risks, but under the threat of the assassins, he is left with no choice but to proceed. Just as Aemond and Otto have left, the assassins instruct the guide to set a trap while they search elsewhere. Thunder rumbles as the night rain continues. A maid encounters the assassin, bewildered by his demeanor. He takes out his rat-catching tools, claiming he was sent in to catch mice. The maid believes him, deceiving the maid. The assassin hears sounds of a struggle next door. He rushes to check, finding the guide has captured Queen Helena. Daemon instructs Ansun for Ansun. Since this is the queen's chamber, the child on the bed must be the prince. However, the two children look identical, and the assassin cannot distinguish which one Daemon is referring to. He demands Helena to make a choice and give up one of her sons. Helena points to Jaehaerys. The two thugs hold the sleeping prince, disregarding that the child is not Aemond himself. The queen leaves with her other young son in her arms. She cannot face the death of her eldest son. She runs to Alicent's chamber, collapsing on the ground, and reveals to her the killing of the child. The occurrence of the blood and cheese incident plunges the castle into panic. The guards search everywhere for the culprit. Upon learning that his youngest son was killed, Euan wildly slashes the map on the table with his sword, swearing to avenge Rhaenyra. Despite the guards' attempts to console him, Euan is determined to wage war against the Black Party. Upon returning to Red Keep, Aemond learns of the incident. He finds a coin under the table, realizing that he was the actual target. Prime Minister Otto finds Alicent and shares his plans with her, emphasizing the need to remain calm. Alicent is overwhelmed with grief, experiencing the pain of losing a child, believing it to be a punishment from the divine. Otto quickly consoles his daughter, intending to leverage the incident to rally support and prepare for the upcoming war. During the meeting, Euan accuses Cole of negligence. Cole, who was supposed to protect the royal family, has gone missing, leading to the assassination of the heir. Euan firmly believes that Rhaenyra is the mastermind behind it all. As he vents his anger, Larys enters. The guards have caught the culprit, who was wearing a golden robe. When they apprehended him, they found the prince's head in his bag. Euan is determined to avenge his son personally, but Otto stops him, He suggested they gather more evidence from the culprit to prove Rhaenyra's guilt. This way, they can go to war with a clear justification. Otto proposes that even if the culprit is not Rhaenyra, they should frame him to expose her true nature to the world. Ewan is resistant to this. He knows that if this matter is made public, he would become a coward himself. But Otto points out that Ewan has already exposed this fact. The coronation coupled with the dragon escaping its lair has long been seen as an ill omen. Rumors now circulate that the throne should belong to Rhaenyra. With the opposition showing vulnerabilities, they can take advantage of this opportunity to hold a grand funeral, revealing the true face of the impostor queen to the public. Helaena has experienced the assassination and her heart is restless. Alicent comes to inform her about the funeral arrangements. Although Helaena is reluctant to attend, she cannot disobey the queen's orders. Alicent wants to apologize for the events of last night, but her daughter refuses to hear any explanations. The people of King's Landing gather together to bid farewell to the young prince. The gates of the Red Keep open, and the royal guards carry out the body of the young prince. Meanwhile, Larys interrogates the culprit in the dungeon, where the man in the golden robe confesses to being hired by Daemon. Larys presses further, inquiring if there are others involved in the assassination. He learns that the accomplice is a rat-catcher. Ewan too arrives at the cell. Under Larys' influence, he goes against Prime Minister Otto's wishes to spare the man's life, ultimately killing the man in the golden robe. The funeral procession informs the surrounding crowd that all of this is Rhaenyra's doing, branding the impostor queen as a regicide. The people express their grief as Helaena remains restless, recalling the scene of her son's murder. Suddenly, the carriage gets stuck in a puddle. The crowd seizes the opportunity to approach, chanting Helena's name in a show of support, yet her expression grows increasingly pained. This incident also spreads to Dragonstone Island. The ministers also believe that Rhaenyra is behind this, and even if the queen explains to the outside world, she is not responsible, no one will believe her. This is a significant blow to the Black Party, especially to their allies. How will they view the Black Party now? Rhaenyra insists that the assassination has nothing to do with her. She has also experienced the pain of losing a child, so why would she bring that pain to Helaena? However, when she sees the smirk on Daemon's face, she realizes that it was him. She questions Daemon. Why would he target a sleeping child? He was only seeking revenge for the queen's child, targeting Ewan's brother, Edmund, the usurper. Unexpectedly, since they couldn't find him, they randomly killed a prince to cover it up. Rhaenyra expresses that her throne is now in jeopardy. The recruited army may dwindle. This incident has caused her to lose face in the court. She no longer trusts Daemon, but the man claims to always be loyal to her. Rhaenyra rebuts him, stating that Daemon only sees himself as a tool to reclaim his inheritance. Daemon steps forward to tell the queen that he never intended to seize the throne. Initially, her father pursued glory but then feared bloodshed. In Daemon's view, Rhaenyra will face the same fate. The queen is still conflicted about the child's fate, and the conversation ends on an unpleasant note. To prove his loyalty, he rode a bloodworm to the dragon's den and headed towards Harrenburg. After Daemon left, Rhaenyra summoned her daughter, Rhaenyra, instructing her to ride Moon Dance to observe King's Landing and see what their next move would be. Rhaenyra inquired about her father, but the queen replied that he had his own path to follow. Meanwhile, at the Red Keep, watching the scene of last night's tragedy unfold, Cole is filled with regret. In the evening, he goes to Alicent's side but refuses to enter, creating a rift between them. Driven by anger, he seeks out Alex, attempting to unleash his fury on him, but Alex proves to be a formidable opponent. Alex realizes that Cole is deliberately provoking him and immediately confronts him. In an agitated state, Cole accused his brother of being a thief and traitor. The others, not wanting trouble, immediately leave the scene. Cole continues, saying, "You are twin brothers. Who knows if you have thoughts of treason in your hearts?" This leads to a heated argument between the two. Cole reveals his true intentions, to enrage Sir Alex, fill him with guilt, and then lure him to Dragonstone. There, disguised as his brother, he will assassinate Rhaenyra to clear his own name. Driven by his dedication to family honor, Sir Alex agrees to this insane plan. Meanwhile, Edmund is seeking solace at a fireworks venue, confiding in a woman that Daemon sent someone to assassinate him. However, he was with a woman that day, so he narrowly escaped. He regretted killing Lucerys, realizing that he had lost control of his emotions that day. He felt deeply sorry. If it weren't for that moment of impulse, perhaps last night's tragedy could have been avoided. The Sea Serpent expressed discontent over Daemon's departure, while Rhaenys comforted him. Daemon always goes his own way. If he manages to capture Harrenburg successfully, it will undoubtedly be a cause for celebration. On the other side, Melissaria is brought before Rhaenyra. who questions her about what happened in King's Landing yesterday. Melissaria admits that she knows, but she only provided 2 names. At this moment, Rhaenyra recalls that the person before her is Daemon's former lover, who has caused significant chaos by betraying secrets multiple times. Therefore, Rhaenyra decides not to set her free. Inside King's Landing, the bodies of several ratcatchers are hung on the castle walls, causing loved ones to kneel on the ground in tears, including the murderer of the young prince. Otto is extremely angry at Ing's actions. They made sacrifices for meager results, and now all efforts have vanished. However, ING believes he is faultless and refuses to play the role of a weak king. He is determined to take the initiative and show the world his decisiveness and resolve. He informs Prime Minister Otto that Alex has already begun to act and will soon bring Rhaenyra's head to mourn his deceased son. Otto watches as ING gradually slips out of his control and mentions the late king. Viserys always knew how to seize the moment and never acted impulsively like ING. However, at this moment, ING is consumed by hatred, exacerbated by Larry's constant meddling, and harbors long-standing dissatisfaction towards Otto. He strips Otto of his position as Prime Minister, entrusting the heavy responsibility to Cole. Meanwhile, Rhaenyra makes a decision to release Melissaria. However, when Melissaria arrives at the harbor, she unexpectedly sees Alex's figure and halts the guards. Alex, with a striking resemblance to his brother, successfully infiltrated deep into the castle. He evaded his brother, Illic, and reached Rhaenyra's doorstep. Rhaenyra sensed something amiss, and at that moment, Illic rushed in upon hearing the news. The 2 brothers engaged in a fierce battle, with Rhaenyra trembling nervously behind Illic. She ordered the handmaidens to call for reinforcements. Alex attempted to attack Rhaenyra multiple times but was thwarted by Illic. The 2 engaged in a life-and-death struggle in the glint of swords, until Illic exposed a vulnerability, getting wounded by Alex, who in turn knocked Alex to the ground. The brothers fought evenly, but soon, Illic seized Alex by the neck, seizing the chance to dig into his brother's wound just as Alex reached for his weapon. Illic pierced his brother's body, unable to bear the pain of killing him, and then took his own life with the sword. The Black Party faction lost another brave warrior. Otto found Alicent and expressed his dissatisfaction with Ing's actions to her. Alicent suggested to Otto that during his absence, he should actively court the Tyler family, and promised to persuade ING to bring him back. When Alicent discovered that Cole was the mastermind behind Ing's revenge, she walked up to him and slapped him, but later they reconciled. On the Riverway Trail, there are the Blaywood and Brecken families, 2 long-standing rival clans who have balanced each other out, until conflicts triggered by inheritance rights once again pit these 2 great families against each other. Pushed to the brink of conflict, Rhaenyra buried Illic and his brother. Jacaerys didn't believe Alex should be buried with his brothers, but the queen understood that Alex had kept his vow and was not at fault. Seeing his mother still trapped by emotions, Jacaerys questioned her about how to deal with the mastermind behind the scenes. Rhaenyra chose silence, unwilling to let the flames of hatred ignite a century-long war. Jacaerys read his mother's thoughts and walked away. Rhaenys approached, deeming the strategy childish, knowing Otto was not the mastermind. Once war begins, the reasons are forgotten, as slaughter and destruction become the driving forces, leaving reason far behind. The only path to redemption at this moment is seeking reconciliation with Alicent. Though Rhaenyra is reluctant, this is the best option to prevent the spread of a major war. Rhaenys further persuades her, stating that the tragedies that occurred were caused by others and not related to Alicent. She neither instigated nor participated, leaving room for reconciliation between them. On the other side, the newly appointed Prime Minister Cole is still somewhat fearful, as he is not fully prepared to shoulder this heavy responsibility, resulting in him being significantly late for the first court meeting. The ministers believe that they are ancient enemies, unrelated to the conflict between the Black and Green factions. However, King ING too believes that this is the first battle between the Black and Green factions. Aemon Timely suggests that, with the full outbreak of war, the 2 major families in the Riverlands already in chaos, they should take this opportunity to launch a formal campaign against Dragonstone, starting with the capture of Harrenhal. Cole immediately volunteers, expressing his willingness to personally lead the troops to attack the Riverlands, then join forces with the Brecken family to capture Harrenhal. Alicent advises everyone not to rush into battle. If they fail, all previous efforts will be in vain. But ING has completely lost control, and cannot be swayed by his mother's persuasion to change his vengeful resolve. ING orders Aemond and Vhagar to stay behind in King's Landing, while he personally leads the expedition with Sunfire. Cole hopes that ING will not use the dragons this time, because as long as they refrain from doing so, Rhaenyra will also keep the dragons out of the conflict. On the other side, Rhaenyra visited Melissaria, expressing gratitude to her. When asked why she saved her, Melissaria hoped to join the court meeting. She had made up her mind to avenge the Hayter family. She knew that the people of King's Landing were in dire straits, and she saw a glimmer of kindness in Rhaenyra. She believes that if Rhaenyra takes power, it will be a blessing for King's Landing. At this moment, a dragon flies overhead where the two are standing. Rhaenyra tells Melissaria that the dragon flying above is Sea Smoke, her late husband's dragon, who has become a wild dragon on the island since his master's death and has been increasingly restless lately. Melissaria sympathetically suggests perhaps it's just too lonely. These words strike a chord with Rhaenyra. Later, she seeks out Renya and hopes that she can bring the young dragon Taraku with her, accompanying Joffrey to Pentos to protect her cousin Lady Janie Elin. The battle between the two factions is about to begin soon. Rhaenyra must ensure the safety of the children. As for her stepdaughter Benella, because she has a dragon, she must stay here. Benya is not happy, but she still complies with the arrangement. Meanwhile, Daemon lands in Harrenhal riding a bloodworm. The place has become dilapidated, and after looking around and searching, he finds no trace of anyone. Daemon pushes open the gate, and acting Lord Simons is inside. Simons immediately approaches, kneels before Daemon, and swears allegiance to House Targaryen. Faced with this sudden loyalty, Daemon appears somewhat bewildered. But Simon sees through the former Lord Larys' scheme, hence he chooses to side with the Black Party. On the Red Castle side, Cole has assembled his troops, and Alicent instructs her brother Galwyn to follow Cole. However, Galwyn looks down on this new prime minister and mocks Cole openly. Cole's humble origins contrast with his current rise to power, a stroke of luck indeed. However, because he was recommended by Alicent, Cole has to suppress his feelings and agree to Galwyn joining the forces for now. The Green Party launches an official attack on the Black Party, and soon the news reaches Dragonstone. The ministers suggest releasing the dragons to strike the Green Party stronghold, but Rhaenyra vetoed this proposal. She knows that if the dragons are deployed, the Green Party will retaliate in kind, and both sides will suffer heavy losses. She insists that a military response is necessary, as the Vale and the North have sent reinforcements, and with time given to Daemon, they still have a chance to turn the tide. However, everyone knows that Rhaenyra is in a dangerous position. Without deploying the dragons, she cannot compete with Aegon. Some ministers even suggest she should immediately find a hiding place, and let them divert the enemy's attention. But Rhaenyra puts a stop to these discussions and gets up from her seat. After Rhaenyra left, Renny stepped forward and expressed her hope that the ministers could understand the heavy burden Rhaenyra bears. She wears the crown of Jaehaerys, the wisest and longest reigning king of House Targaryen. Rhaenys finished speaking and turned away, leaving the others to contemplate. After leaving the council meeting, Rhaenys sought out her husband, the Sea Snake, and laid out the recent turmoil, hoping he could assist Rhaenyra. However, the Sea Snake clearly did not want to get involved, and the conversation shifted to the issue of succession on the Tide Island. She hoped that Benya would become the Lady of the Tides, but the Sea Snake remained hesitant. They need to establish an heir in advance, with only Benya and Joffrey staying away from the conflict. The Sea Snake did not give a direct answer to this question. The Queen asked Benya to guard the dragon eggs and the children. After bidding farewell to her sister Benira, Benya immediately set off for Pentos. Meanwhile, Larys advised Aegon not to lead the troops personally. Rumors are spreading, suggesting that the king is being manipulated by his advisors, flying to the battlefield to fight alongside Cole. In this way, Queen Alicent can rule the kingdom in his absence, and Edmund will also benefit. Although just rumors, as they spread, more and more people believe them, causing Aegon to feel anxious. He appointed Larys as the head of intelligence, instructing him to investigate the source of the rumors. After Larys left, Aegon decided to postpone the departure ceremony. He looked at his reflection in the mirror, understanding that he must take decisive measures to consolidate his throne. He deliberately had people find Edmund, and made him look bad in front of everyone as a warning. Due to Aegon being the king, Edmund could only bear this grudge silently, leaving in anger. On the other side, the Green Party's expeditionary force also encountered trouble. Galwyn, underestimating Cole, left the group without permission, despite Cole's efforts to stop him being in vain. At that moment, Rhaenyra, in charge of patrolling, happened to witness the scene, and immediately rode her dragon towards them. Cole and Galwyn desperately fled into the forest. At a critical moment, narrowly escaping the dragon's pursuit, Rhaenyra circled in the air for a while. Seeing that they did not emerge, she decided to report to Rhaenys first. After Galwyn survived by a hair's breadth, his attitude towards Cole changed, expressing gratitude and acknowledging a debt of life. Rhaenyra informed Rhaenys of the discovery of the Green Party army. prompting the ministers to urge immediate military action. If they are allowed to enter Harrenburg, Demon and the Bloodworms may not be able to handle it. Rhaenyra looked at Rhaenys, who indicated that she would consider their advice. Meanwhile, in Harrenburg, Demon heard someone forcefully pushing the door, promptly opening it only to find no one there. Suddenly, Demon woke up from the illusion, and Simon's daughter approached him, telling Demon that he would meet his end here. Without waiting for Demon's response, she turned and walked away. Rhaenys found Melissaria, hoping she could help her meet Alicent. Melissaria said that Alicent often prays at the church, and if Rhaenys seizes the moment, she will have a chance to be alone with her. The next day, Rhaenyra disguised herself and returned to King's Landing. In the church, she finally met Alicent. Alicent wanted to cry out for help, but Rhaenyra stopped her. She explained her intentions, hoping to ease the tension between the two parties, but Alicent pointed out that she had no way out now, questioning why she should reconcile with her. Rhaenyra, however, stated that only through reconciliation could they avoid the War of the Dragons. They also discussed the late King Viserys' will. Rhaenyra learned that her father had mentioned the prophecy of ice and fire to Alicent, leading her to realize that her father had always supported her. Alicent was already aware of this. The late king favored his daughter, but at this moment, she could not change Aegon's determination. Even Cole, her lover, was out of control. She informed Rhaenyra that the Great War had already begun, and all words seemed futile. She then stood up and bid farewell to Rhaenyra. Thus, the Blood Dragon's frenzy officially began. Demon saw Rhaenyra again, this time seated high on the Iron Throne, questioning his loyalty. He never argued back because family comes first. Now he is very angry, his anger reaching its peak. Demon beheaded Rhaenyra, her head rolling to the ground with words still lingering in her mouth. Isn't this what you wanted? At that moment, a raven brought news, abruptly waking Demon from his dream. Simmons approached heavily, and informed him that 2 castles had surrendered to the Green Party without a fight. With their garrisons now under Cole's command, the size of their army had tripled since departure. If they were to attack Harrenburg now, they would be unable to resist. But all of this is the sin created by Demon, brought about by his exchange of sons. On the other side, Rhaenys approached the sailor Alan, asking if he had saved her husband Razor's life. Clearly, she was aware that Alan was the illegitimate son of Sea Serpent. At that moment, Sea Serpent appeared, interrupting their conversation. Faced with his wife's questioning, he chose to evade, unwilling to let this matter disrupt the harmony between them. Rhaenys stopped probing further. She told Sea Serpent that she had come to bid farewell. With Rhaenyra missing for several days, the court descended into chaos. Rhaenyra and Jacaerys sent her a message, hoping she would return to Dragonstone to take charge. She then turned and left. On the other side, the Grand Maester brought tea for Alicent. Alicent asked him if King Viserys might pass the throne to ENG. The Grand Maester claimed ignorance, seemingly getting away with his lie, as she finished the tea in her cup. During the council meeting on Dragonstone, the ministers showed contempt for Jacaerys and Rhaenyra, even mocking the queen for being too weak. Even with Rhaenys present, they were relentless in their pursuit of power. When a minister questioned Rhaenys' position, Sea Serpent suddenly entered the council chamber. The scene fell into silence instantly. Under the pressure of Sea Serpent, they heeded Rhaenys' admonition. The queen was working hard to alter the situation, unlike them who were eager for war. Meanwhile, Cole's army was unstoppable, executing all resistors. After receiving a letter from Aemond, Cole altered the march direction, bypassing Harrenburg and advancing along the coastline. In the council meeting at Redcastle, Aang learned of Demon's capture of Harrenburg. Greatly infuriated, he blamed Larys for not letting him lead the attack, but Larys believed that the dilapidated castle was insignificant. Occupying Raven's Perch would weaken the Black Party. The island of Dragonstone, Rhaenyra, will be difficult to make waves. Upon hearing that Aemond had contacted Cole separately after bypassing him, Aang expressed suspicion of Aemond's ulterior motives. But with a major battle looming, immediate retribution would undermine morale, so he had to swallow his pride. Aemond continued, stating that Harrenburg successfully held back Demon's strongest forces, providing them with an opportunity. The Black Party was now incapable of competing with them, and Raven's Perch was within their grasp. Larys confided in Alicent about the council meeting, and upon seeing the abortion potion on the table, he immediately understood everything. The two of them discussed Viserys' final choice in casual conversation. However, at that moment, these matters were no longer significant. War was about to break out, and the victor would ascend to the throne, with Viserys' wishes fading along with him. Inside Harrenburg, Demon heard someone intruding in his dream. He immediately drew his sword and pursued, where in a bright light, he saw himself transformed into Aemond. He entered Leah's room, where she understood that Demon was haunted by recent nightmares stemming from the curse of Herrenberg. The Black Heart of Herrenberg cut down the Heartwood tree, which harbored the souls of many ancient ancestors. It was said that some could still hear their voices. Demon's bed was made of heartwood, and she even knew that Demon had come here after arguing with his wife. Slowly, he approached, took the offered drink, and drank it all in one go. At that moment, it was as if he had traversed through time and space, finding himself in the midst of a round-table meeting, discussing state affairs with many lords. Just at this moment, his deceased wife Lana suddenly appeared. He instantly became sober, realizing it was just an illusion. Meanwhile, Ewan found Allison, expressing his dissatisfaction and sorrow, but Allison did not offer comfort, instead revealing his dark side. In the eyes of everyone, the true heir was none other than Rhaenyra, and he was just a pawn being manipulated by others. Aegon hurriedly reminded his mother to watch her words, but Allison showed no fear and continued to criticize his incompetence. Tearful and confused from being hit where it hurt, Aegon asked his mother what to do. Allison told him that, as long as he faithfully carried out his duties, remained silent, and learned from those more knowledgeable around him, the Iron Throne would always be his. The large army of Cole stood at the gates of Raven's Perch, and Gelwin thought they would wait until nightfall to act, but Cole ordered an immediate attack. At that moment, Rhaenyra returned to the council meeting, and Jacaerys was particularly angry about his mother's sudden departure without notice. Rhaenyra informed everyone that she was heading to King's Landing for negotiations, but the outcome was predictable to all. Now, she has decided to show the Green Party the fury of the Queen. She plans to confront Cole's army and send a giant dragon. Jacaerys volunteered himself, but she turned him down. Rhaenys stepped forward, declaring herself as the undisputed choice for this battle. Despite Rhaenyra's reluctance in her heart, the current situation made it undoubtedly the best choice. Seeing Rhaenyra not denying it, Rhaenys turned and left. Aegon remembered his mother's words and refused to become a puppet. He decided to lead the charge himself. And Sunfire was also excited, eager to soar through the skies with its master. Faced with Cole's fierce assault, the lords of Raven's Perch bravely resisted, looking up to the sky, hoping for the reinforcements from Dragonstone. Finally, a roar echoed through the sky as Rhaenys rode the Red Queen to the rescue, the Dragonfire mercilessly slaughtering the soldiers of the Green Army, scattering them in all directions. All of this was within Cole's expectations. He had long deployed numerous archers, shooting crossbow bolts into the sky. However, these attacks were ineffective against Melia's, only further enraging the dragon. Vhagar, lurking in the forest, sensed the presence of other dragons. Ready to strike, he was stopped by Aemond. Following his master's command, Vhagar continued to lie in wait. At this moment, Aegon rode Sunfire to the scene. Cole, witnessing the king leading the charge, was greatly encouraged. He rallied the soldiers, inspiring them to pledge loyalty and passion for the king. The Red Queen, the fastest dragon, launched a counterattack like a ghost, effortlessly scratching Sunfire and then biting down on his wing. As the Red Queen was about to kill Sunfire, the sound of massive wings flapping came from the distant forest. It was the dragon Vhagar. Aemond's arrival finally eased Cole's lingering worries. However, unexpectedly, Aemond, disregarding Aegon's safety, directly breathed Dragonfire towards the two dragons. The Red Queen dodged in time, but Sunfire and Aegon were caught in the flames. He fell into the forest, but Rhaenys didn't choose to retreat. Their allies were still watching from underground. Fleeing at this moment would make them lose faith in the Black Party. The Red Queen obediently followed her master's orders and returned to the battlefield. The old matriarch tightened the reins. She would not back down. However, in an instant, the Red Queen was caught by Vhagar. Vhagar retaliated, injuring the other dragon. The intense pain caused Vhagar to continuously breathe out Dragonfire, leading to both dragons falling to the ground together. Cole, who had gone to rescue the king, was also thrown off his horse. Vhagar struggled to stand up and slowly flew into the sky, despite being severely injured. Seeing the determined look in her master's eyes, the Red Queen changed course once again. Just as Rhaenys was surveying from the air, Vhagar suddenly soared into the sky and bit the Red Queen's neck. Despite its struggles, it was in vain. In its final moments, it turned to look at its master, then closed its eyes forever. Rhaenys loosened the reins and fell alongside her dragon in this great battle. At this moment, the smoke of war filled the air, turning Raven's Nest into a hell on earth. Aemond rode the dragon away from the battlefield. Despite Cole's victory, as he approached, he found his army reduced to ashes. He arrived at the place where Aegon fell, halting Aemond, who was about to act. Following his gaze, he found Aegon nearly melted by Dragonfire. On the other side, Upon hearing the news of his wife's death, Sea Serpent fell into despair. He was deeply saddened. His wife and their 2 children were gone. He blamed Queen Rennala for his wife's death, leading to a rift between them. The future of the Black Party was cast in shadow. Cole returned to King's Landing with the Red Queen's head, intending to display the royal authority through a parade. He unwittingly sparked chaos in King's Landing. The common people witnessed the scene and felt it was an ominous sign. They packed their bags, eager to escape from this place. Aegon was carried into the palace. Watching his son, Alicent felt a deep pang of heartache. The Grand Masters worked together to remove the armor stuck to the flesh. Aemond also hurried over, ostensibly to visit the king, but in reality to demand command authority. Alicent asked Cole about the cause of Aegon's severe injury, but he evaded the question. However, Alicent inferred from Cole's words to Aemond that he was involved. The death of Princess Rhaenys without a crown made the atmosphere at the court uneasy. The ministers blamed Rennala, hoping she would step back and transfer command of the war to someone else. However, Rennala adamantly refused and suggested reinforcing the front to guard against Green Party attacks. Such a conservative approach once again sparked ridicule from the ministers. They advocated for a counterattack against the Green Party. Now that Vhagar was exhausted, Yen and Aegon were also severely injured. Launching an attack now could very well reclaim the Iron Throne. However, Rennala knew she lacked capable dragon riders. If she were to strike now, even her own safety couldn't be guaranteed. Thus, the court session ended in debate. Jacaerys planned to negotiate with Daemon in Harrenhal. With Rhaenys dead, he had to declare loyalty to the queen and state his position publicly. But Benea informed Jacaerys that not even their mother could persuade Daemon. So what could he do? Jacaerys just wanted to do something. His mother instructed Benea to scout the battles, but left him in the castle, which he found humiliating. Benea comforted him, saying the queen only wanted to protect him. Jacaerys was their family's last hope. If something happened to him, Rennala would have no successor. But because of this, he had to bravely step forward, fight alongside his mother, and reclaim everything they had lost. Jacaerys suddenly thought of controlling the Frey family, who held the ferry crossing at the Luan River. If he could win them over, there would be no need to wait for Daemon's response. Although this action might displease Rennala, it was the only thing he could do at the moment. Meanwhile, Daemon threatened the Bracken family to submit to him, declared the false King Aegon a usurper, and cut ties with him. However, the Brackens refused to yield, and Daemon didn't order his death, because he needed such individuals. In the evening, Rennala discussed the day's court meeting with Mysalia. She understood that the senior officials no longer wished to be loyal to her. They merely aimed to dethrone her and hold power themselves. She felt helpless. At that moment, Mysalia proposed a plan. The Green Party Prime Minister Cole made a grave mistake by parading through the streets with the Red Queen's dragon's head, boasting about his spoils. However, the common people saw only ominous signs. They were very fearful, with food shortages and the king fallen from the sky, leading to whispers among them. Under the rule of King Varys, the country prospered and the people lived in peace. But now, with continuous warfare and unrest, victory might belong to those who incite further unrest. Mysalia's words brought sudden clarity to Rennala. She had previously thought the power of the people insignificant, unable even to pierce a shield. But now, she realized she had underestimated this force. That night, she took action. Benea was still grieving Rhaenys' departure. Rennala approached her and shared some little-known stories about Rhaenys' life. She also handed Benea an exquisite box, hoping she would deliver it to the Sea Serpent to mend their relationship. Deep within Harrenhal, Sir Daemon was once again troubled by illusions, this time seeing his mother. Simmons woke him up from the haze. It was then that he realized he was actually having a meal. Meanwhile, Harrenhal was undergoing repairs, with a severe shortage of funds posing a major challenge. Simmons suggested seeking help from Dragonstone, but his pride prevented him from bowing to Rennala. On the other hand, the Grand Maester revealed that Aegon's condition was critical, with burns almost all over his body, multiple broken bones, and uncertainty about when he would wake up. Alicent stood up and proposed that a regent must be chosen to take charge of the government. Although the ministers unanimously endorsed Edmund, Alicent believed she was the best candidate. After all, she had acted as regent when the former king was seriously ill. However, the Grand Maester believed that, as the country was in a time of war, a dragon rider was needed to lead the nation. Therefore, Prince Edmund was the ideal choice. With Larys and Cole also in agreement, Alicent could only accept it helplessly. After Prince Edmund ascended the throne, he immediately ordered a full-scale attack on the Riverlands. Alicent sat there, very angry, understanding that she, too, would be abandoned by everyone like her father. Edmund's first command upon his coronation was to dispose of the decaying bodies of the rat-catchers. Alicent found Cole, hoping he would be honest with her. Cole told her that, after witnessing the power of the dragons in the Battle of the Eyrie, he chose Edmund. In his view, dragons were the key to turning the tide of the war, and any sacrifice was worth it as long as they could win the war. After hearing this, Alicent turned and walked away, causing their relationship to fracture once again. At this moment, the people gathered at the city gates, wanting to leave King's Landing, but the guards stood firm, refusing to open the gates. Deep down, they understood that Edmund's iron-fisted rule would only push them further into a darker abyss. Jacaerys visited the Lord of Luanha City, where the three of them negotiated. With the man showing great ambition, Larys was expelled from the castle, prompting the queen to appoint a new lord. They both desired Harrenhal and sought the protection of dragons, which Jacaerys readily agreed to. Meanwhile, Benya approached the Sea Snake, pleading with him to become the prime minister and strategize for Rennala. Despite the Sea Snake's hesitation, under Benia's persuasion, he ultimately accepted her request with the box in hand. As they parted ways, the Sea Snake called out to Benya, declaring her as his heir, only to be rejected. She told the Sea Snake that she was of blood and fire, but the heir of the Tide's Head Island needed to be of salt and sea. On the other side, Rennala summoned Alfred, hoping he could go to Harrenhal on her behalf. She shouldn't wait for Daemon to prove herself. Only by reconciling with Daemon could she win this war. Before departing, Rennala particularly instructed him to probe Daemon's true stance, whether he gathered the army for the queen or for himself. The lords of the Riverlands arrived at Harrenhal to speak with Daemon, after the Blackwoods subdued the Brackens, and carried out brutal reprisals in Rennala's name. All Riverlands lords refused to pledge loyalty to Daemon. Rennala's attendants arrived at King's Landing, identified themselves to the guards, and requested to see an old friend. Edmund gazed at the Iron Throne right before him, feeling overwhelmed, only to turn around and see Helena behind him. Alicent stood by Aegon's bedside, but she didn't notice her son calling out Mom as she left. Jacaerys reported to Rennala the outcome of his negotiations in Luanha City, feeling anxious and fearing punishment, yet Rennala remained silent. She explained to Jacaerys why she didn't involve him, as everyone knew they stood no chance against the mighty Valgar. Though they had enough dragons, they lacked matching dragon riders. Jacaerys proposed allowing foreigners to attempt dragon taming. Rennala understood this idea was incredibly wild, but in their current predicament, it seemed to be the only way out. Thus, an unprecedented dragon taming event began. Inside King's Landing, immediately after taking office, Edmund convened a royal council meeting. He promptly dispatched the major lords to launch a full-scale attack on Harrenhal, disregarding Daemon and the Bloodflies. Simultaneously, he sent Ser Tarlon to form an alliance with the Tri-City Alliance, aiming to expand trade relations with the Free Trade Federation. This move could resolve the food crisis in King's Landing, and cause trouble for the Sea Serpents, weakening their naval blockade. However, this strategy was questioned by Alicent, as the Tri-City Alliance were merely a group of pirates with unreliable reputations. Allowing them to approach the waters near King's Landing would be like inviting wolves into the house. Cole agreed with this view, which angered the new King Edmund. He immediately ordered Cole to head to Harrenhal, even though his soldiers had suffered heavy losses in the Battle of Raven's Roost. Edmund showed no mercy, instructing him to gather all available troops and depart immediately for King's Landing. He wasn't afraid of Daemon and the Bloodflies. He looked forward to meeting his uncle Daemon. After the royal council meeting, Edmund immediately left his mother. He was unhappy with her dissent. He stripped Alicent of her right to attend future council meetings, adding, "The crown is grateful to you." Alicent was deeply hurt by her son's indifference, their relationship strained and pitiable. At the meeting table on Dragonstone, the Sea Snake donned the emblem of the Hand of the King, with other ministers entering the room. During the council meeting, Rhaenyra called upon Sir Stephen, detailing the current struggles of the Blacks. They had lost Rhaenyra and the Dragon Queen, with herself as queen not permitted on the battlefield. Daemon was the only dragon rider left, but he was not fully aligned with her, so more dragon riders were needed to move forward, to ride Vermithor, Silverwing, and Sea Smoke. Since Princess Rhaenys was not accepted by any dragon in the Targaryen family, and the other princes were too young, Rhaenyra decided to make Stephen a dragon rider.
Your grandmother's grandmother, Arianna, was born a Targaryen princess.
Flowing with Targaryen blood, Stephen immediately knelt down in excitement upon learning he might become a dragon rider, swearing eternal loyalty to Queen Rhaenyra. On the other side, Daemon once again found himself in a vision. seeing his elder brother seated on the Iron Throne, expressing his discontent towards Demon.
I've decided. To name a new heir.
Demon immediately turned away but couldn't open the door, this being his long-standing inner demon. Eventually, Simons opened the door, bringing Demon back to reality. He questioned Simons about his actions, suspecting him of disturbing his sleep. After venting his anger, Demon packed up to leave the place.
The ghosts, the curses, the blasted weirwood bed, I'm done with it.
Ah, yes, it is your way, is it not?
Leia advised Demon to calm down. He asked Leia for advice regarding the Riverlands Lords. She replied that the unity of the Riverlands Lords depended on the influential Tully family. Without them, the Riverlands Lords would scatter, making them an easy target for Demon. At this moment, an owl arrived with a message. After Leia read it, she instructed Demon to hold off for 3 days as the situation would change. On the other side, in the dragon pit, Rhaenyra led a ceremony for Stephen to ride a dragon. He approached as the handmaidens advised him not to show any fear. Stephen attempted to give commands, and after a moment of scrutiny from Seasmoke, the saddle on its back became visible. Stephen cautiously approached Seasmoke, but couldn't help showing his fear. Seasmoke, sensing this fear, breathed a jet of dragon flame, turning him to ash. On another side, the sea snake led a patrol of the harbor.
I wish you to sail with me, as my first mate.
I'm grateful for the offer, my lord.
The man wanted to politely decline, knowing that the Sea Snake's crew had more experienced sailors. Unaware that he was the only illegitimate son, the Sea Snake quickly mentioned that he was even younger on his first voyage, and he had excelled in the Stepstones, earning the respect of all the crew, making him the best choice for the position. Unable to refuse the request, he reluctantly agreed to report for duty the next day. Meanwhile, on Dragonstone, Seasmoke fled the island, and the brave Stephen met his sacrifice. Rhaenyra felt deep remorse over the situation. Upon receiving the news, Melissaria hurried over to comfort the queen, and brought along some good news. The people of King's Landing were struggling with hunger, and needed someone to vent their frustrations on. However, Aemond fed valuable livestock to Vhagar, making it a prime target. By creating chaos, they could stoke the people's anger. Aemond would only resort to using force, which would exacerbate the situation, and trap the Greens in a difficult position. Harris addressed the council about the plight of King's Landing, where people were hungry and angry at the rulers. Therefore, he proposed to become the Prime Minister of King's Landing. Aemond ignored this and instead mocked Harris, demanding that Harris bring back his grandfather Otto Hightower to take charge again. Just then, the Grand Maester brought good news that King Jaehaerys had woken up. Aemond immediately went to visit. The former king suddenly became astute, claiming amnesia and feigning ignorance of the past.
Seems my brother has a long recovery ahead of him, Grand Maester.
Early the next morning, the fishermen by the sea in King's Landing witnessed a peculiar scene. Several small sailboats flying black party flags drifted in, loaded with food. This scene, like hope, illuminated the hearts of the people of King's Landing, as Queen Rhaenyra had never forgotten them. Consequently, they began to gather and protest against the Green Party, who had seized power. Meanwhile, in Pentos, Princess Rhaenyra, who was sent by her mother to protect Lady Jane Arryn, witnessed an astonishing scene when she took her brother out for a walk. They witnessed a remarkable sight. Upon returning home, she was still filled with thoughts. At that moment, Lady Jane Arryn entered. She was displeased with Rhaenyra sending a dragon to protect her, and considered moving the siblings to Prince Regio's residence. Rhaenyra then told her that there was a great dragon here, and she had seen the traces of its hunting today. Lady Jane was not surprised. Rumors of a wild dragon coming to hunt had circulated. Since the Black and Green parties went to war, the Masters speculated that it was a wild dragon hunting for prey from elsewhere. At this time, Alicent stood by Jaehaerys' bedside, wanting to deliver a letter to her father, Otto Hightower, only to find out that the Grand Maester had searched all the major families in the Riverlands, Highgarden, and Old Town, without finding a trace of the Prime Minister. Alicent walked out of the Red Keep gates, found her brother Galway, and asked if he had found any trace of their father. He was unconcerned, believing that their father would inform them immediately if he had any news. Alicent then inquired about the well-being of her younger son. Galway informed her that Daeron had grown into a handsome young man, and was very different from his brothers. He was kind. Alicent nodded in agreement. Her brothers lacked this quality. Galway lamented that although the Red Keep was good, it might not be the best place to raise young people. After speaking, he bid farewell to his sister. Soon after, a riot broke out in King's Landing. sparked by Rhaenyra's gift that caused chaos. The guards found the Queen Mother and the Queen, and tried to escort them to leave quickly, but they were pelted with rotten vegetables and foul eggs by the crowd. An old man grabbed Alicent, but had his arm cut off by the guards, further enraging the crowd. They loudly called out Queen Rhaenyra's name and then attacked the soldiers. Alicent fled back to the Red Keep with her daughter in a carriage, while Harris did not give up. This time, he found the ailing Jaehaerys, and intercepted the medication intended for the king. While this medication could alleviate pain, it also clouded Jaehaerys' mind. Though he survived narrowly from the dragon's flames, his life might never be the same. The Grand Maester had exhausted all methods, but Jaehaerys could no longer run, with his mind being all he had left. To gain Jaehaerys' trust, Harris began to share his own story, being born with a disability, thus empathizing more deeply. People may sympathize with you, but privately, they will still look down on you. Harris continued to stoke the fire. Now, Aemond has taken the throne, and Jaehaerys himself knows what fate awaits him. Tears streamed down Jaehaerys' face as he begged Harris to save him. Deep in Harrenhal, Daemon was plagued by nightmares once again. This time, he sought his brother grieving for the loss of loved ones in his dream. He approached to comfort him, but was abruptly woken up by Simons. Simons was there to inform him that news had arrived from Maidenpool. Gralton of House Talat had passed away, and he was the linchpin of the Lord of the Riverlands. The mastermind behind all of this is the witch Lya. She contributed her expertise to Daemon, indicating that Daemon has hope of gaining control over the Riverlands' military power. Sea Smoke roamed around various islands, and captured people from the shore to eat when hungry. On that day, Sea Smoke targeted a chocolate-flavored sailor, but several capture attempts were evaded. The black sailor hurried into the forest, with Sea Smoke relentlessly pursuing. The black sailor fell into a pit. Thinking his end was near, but a voice halted Sea Smoke. Inside Dragonstone, Melissaria reported the results of the battle in King's Landing to Rhaenyra. The Queen Mother was forced to return to the Red Keep amidst the anger of the people, yet Rhaenyra found the fruits of victory to be insignificant. Her son Jaehaerys doubted her abilities, believing she needed Daemon's support. In truth, in Rhaenyra's heart, Daemon's life is exactly what she desires, and what she currently possesses is also what Daemon has longed for. Favored by the King Father and bestowed with the Iron Throne, they are halves of each other's lives. So Rhaenyra understands Daemon's heart is also filled with contradictions, longing to possess her, yet unwilling to be possessed by her, only able to watch as she ultimately gains everything he desires. Rhaenyra was very afraid of this. They would become enemies. Now, Rhaenys and the Red Queen have both died in battle, leaving the Blacks with only Syrax and 2 young dragons. They are powerless to confront Vhagar alone.
You have seen me as worthy, as an equal even. Because of that, I will serve you.
When everyone doubts and abandons Rhaenyra, Melissaria, however, firmly believes she can ascend to the Iron Throne and become queen. Rhaenyra gratefully embraces her. Their emotions broke through the taboo. Fortunately, the guards appeared in time to interrupt. The dragon Sea Smoke circled over Spicetown, with a person sitting on its back. Rhaenyra's face turned pale upon hearing the news. She feared Sea Smoke would be taken by the Greens. She quickly rode Syrax to Spicetown. The sailor companion was actually a bastard of House Velaryon. Therefore, he was the rightful new master of Sea Smoke. After successfully taming dragons, the Blacks began recruiting warriors with Targaryen blood to oppose Vhagar. Rhaenyra rode her dragon to the shore. She found the new master of Sea Smoke. He was a sailor she had never seen before. Rhaenyra introduced herself first. She was the Queen of House Targaryen. She then questioned the man about his intentions. The sailor's name was Adam. He explained that Sea Smoke had come to him willingly, and he desired to learn the ways of dragon riding to show loyalty to the Queen. Rhaenyra was stunned. Before she could convince him, Adam knelt in loyalty. To prevent any mishaps, Rhaenyra approached Adam with the dragon. The man then introduced himself. He had earned merit for House Velaryon. Despite his humble appearance, he knew how to serve well. Rhaenyra asked about his family background. Adam mentioned that his mother was a shipwright, his father unimportant, with no lineage to trace. He knew nothing about any connection to House Targaryen. Rhaenyra realized she had gained a dragon rider, a rare smile appearing on her face. However, upon returning to Dragonstone, Controversy arose in the council meeting. Some believe that commoners riding dragons is a blasphemy against the divine, as dragons are seen as deities, and the Targaryens as their messengers, because dragons are regarded as deities in the hearts of the people, and the Targaryens are considered the messengers of the gods. Sea Snake proposed waiting for the queen to make a decision, but it was learned that Rhaenyra would not be present today, and Rhaenyra was troubled by this as well. Now, with Daemon gone, she only had Syrax, the dragon that could make Imri fear. Sea Smoke choosing him personally proved that Addam must have inherited the blood of House Targaryen. Surely, there are many such individuals. They might even find writers for Vermithor and Silverwing, but where to find them? However, Melissaria told her that such a search would be in vain. She had managed a brothel in King's Landing for decades, witnessing the romantic escapades of Targaryen princes. Just from what she knew, there were 80 bastards. Surely, there were even more among the commoners. Perhaps some were even on Dragonstone. Although this went against family customs and honor, the usurping Greens were no different. Rhaenyra also remembered how for 20 years, the lords had whispered behind her back, slandering her 3 sons as bastards.
Well then, let us raise an army of bastards.
Addam moved into a luxurious room. Sea Snake came to him on his own initiative. Addam asked for permission to resign from his position as a shipwright. In fact, both of Addam's brothers are Sea Snake's bastards. However, they have not yet acknowledged each other. Sea Snake praised him briefly before leaving. Meanwhile, in Harrenhal, Daemon finally found an opportunity. A few days ago, the old lord of the Riverlands passed away. His grandson Oscar succeeded as the new governor. Daemon believed that Oscar was an easily manipulable child. He gathered the Riverlands families to serve him. However, the Bracken family had aired private grievances, causing strong discontent among the other families. If Oscar ordered the lords to submit at this moment, it would likely backfire. Oscar, however, diffused the crisis. He openly expressed his dissatisfaction with Daemon, and gained the support of the lords. Daemon was about to speak. Oscar said, "Do you still want the Riverlands army?" Daemon fell silent. Later, Oscar mentioned the traditions of the Riverlands. That is to say what one means. His grandfather made Rhaenyra crown prince. He had pledged loyalty to Queen Rhaenyra. He would also stand by the queen's side. The other lords were still somewhat hesitant. Daemon acknowledged his previous rash actions. He begged for their forgiveness, and stated that he supported the new lord, Oscar, Daemon's younger brother, Bracken. He was the first to pledge loyalty to Oscar. However, although Oscar accepted his loyalty, he demanded compensation for his previous actions. Bracken defended himself, saying he was only following Daemon's orders. Yet, Oscar did not accept this excuse. He believed Bracken was simply seeking revenge. Bracken turned to Daemon for mercy. However, Oscar insisted Daemon make a fair judgment personally, to make amends for past mistakes, and prove to all the Riverlands lords that he is worthy of their support. After a mental struggle, Daemon stepped forward, swung his sword and beheaded Bracken. Upon returning to his room, he found his brother Viserys sitting on the bed, gasping for breath, holding the Targaryen family crown in his hand. However, he told his brother, he had never desired the throne, because power and desire would only destroy those who sought them. Daemon had long desired it, but now, did he still want it? Meanwhile, in King's Landing, Larys received news through secret channels. They learned that the Sea Smoke had a new owner. He doubted that Benya could control this dragon. After all, she had attempted it at the age of 14, nearly losing her life in the process. But besides her, who else could it be? However, Larys did not inform the Regent Edmund about the addition of the Black Party's new dragon strength. Instead, he went to Aeron's sick room, hoping he could regain strength to overthrow Edmund. On the other side, the Sea Snake found Ellen, arranging for him to find several ships, but insisting that the captains and guards must be reliable, as this journey was for the Queen to sail to King's Landing. Then, the Sea Snake told Ellen his brother Addam had become a dragon rider, suggesting that he might also try, but Ellen had no intention to do so. On Dragonstone, Jacaerys was somewhat dissatisfied with his mother's decision, as they had been mistaken for bastards, because they lacked silver hair, and had endured much ridicule because of it. It was through taming dragons that they had shed this shameful title. If these bastards could tame dragons, wouldn't that prove that they brothers were bastards as well?
Did you think I would have dark hair?
But Rhaenyra had made up her mind. She instructed Mysaria to send a message to a handmaiden in King's Landing, spreading rumors among the common folk, claiming that Queen Rhaenyra was gathering people with Targaryen bloodline to Dragonstone to tame dragons. This news quickly reached the ears of Ulf, who had boasted about his lineage in a tavern, now found himself in a dilemma. Ulf and his wife planned to flee with their child to Tumbleton, but the days ahead might be grim. Yet Ulf realized this was a chance to turn the tables. He didn't want to miss out. As long as he could possess a dragon, everything would change. That night, all the Targaryen bastards sailed towards Dragonstone. Yet the keepers of the dragon pit believed Rhaenyra's actions went against the will of the dragons. It would likely incur punishment, so they all proposed a strike. Rhaenyra, at this moment, could not afford to consider all that, for the battle between the Blacks and the Greens had reached a critical juncture.
With these 2 dragons added to our number, the enemy will have no choice but to give way.
She led the people to the dragon pit, informing them of the dangers of this journey, and the target they were to tame, the dragon known as Vermithor the Bronze Fury. Vermithor had bronze scales and a pair of large brown wings, being the largest dragon in size after Vhagar, and perhaps the most ferocious. Rhaenyra took the lead and approached first, soothing Vermithor with High Valyrian. Seeing that it did not reject her, Rhaenyra smiled. She believed the chances of success were high. A young boy stepped forward from the crowd, willing to be the first to attempt it. Rhaenyra told them that she had nothing to say about whether it would be successful or not. It was all up to Vermithor to decide. After speaking, she led them up to the high platform, waiting in silence for the outcome to unfold. A commotion arose in the crowd, everyone nervously stepping back. At that moment, a young man gathered his courage. Imitating Rhaenyra's previous actions, he reached out his hand, attempting to touch Vermithor's head, but the next moment, Vermithor breathed fire. People scattered to escape. Guards were already prepared, blocking their path. Vermithor continued to breathe flames, causing the bastards to scream in agony. Many became fodder for Vermithor. Rhaenyra witnessed it all. Her heart gradually filled with despair. Amidst the chaos, several individuals were pushed into the dragon pit by Vermithor. Screams echoed one after another, each one without exception becoming food for the great dragon. The blacksmith, Gendry, and a girl hid behind a boulder, seizing the opportunity to slip away from behind Vermithor. However, with a swift turn, the dragon blocked their escape route. Gendry reacted quickly, pushing the girl aside, causing Vermithor to snap at empty air. In a critical moment, Gendry shouted loudly, diverting the dragon's attention to himself, allowing the girl to escape safely. Gendry was prepared for death, yet Vermithor did not strike. Moved by his selfless sacrifice, he became another dragon rider within the Black's party. Meanwhile, Ulf the White fled into another cave within the dragon pit, where he inadvertently crushed a dragon egg. The sound of the egg cracking attracted a silver dragon, yet instead of devouring Ulf immediately, it continuously sniffed at the scent on him. This silver dragon once served as Queen Alysanne's mount, and Ulf seemed to carry her blood in his veins, the favor of fate making him the new master of Silverwing. On the other side, within King's Landing, Aemond learned from his subordinates that his brother Daeron's dragon, Tessarion, was finally ready for battle, soon to add another dragon to the Green faction. Suddenly, a commotion outside the city walls was heard. He opened the gates to look outside, observing a silver dragon soaring above King's Landing. It was none other than Ulf the White, who had just departed, riding Silverwing, feeling utmost joy in his heart. Aemond mounted Vhagar, yet he did not choose to attack Silverwing. Instead, he flew over the sea straight towards Dragonstone. In his mind, he calculated that Dragonstone must be weakly defended now. If he could deal with Ylarax, the Iron Throne would be within easy reach. Just as he neared Dragonstone, a dragon flew out from the island. He was about to command Vhagar to attack, but to his surprise, 2 more dragons appeared. This sight filled him with extreme terror. He immediately ordered Vhagar to turn around and retreat. Aemond looked back. Behind Rhaenyra, 2 dragons, Vermithor and Ylarax, were roaring into the sky. Another dragon circled in the air. Rhaenyra's lips curled in a mocking smile. On the other side, Bania was about to be sent to another lord. She seemed to sense something, and after breaking away from the group, she ran wildly in a certain direction. She arrived at a wild dragon feeding ground, following tracks far into the distance. When she was thirsty, she found a stream. After replenishing herself with water, she continued on. Bania walked for a long time. Finally spotting a wild dragon in the sky, she immediately gave chase, running up a hill, and on the other side of the hill, she saw a sheep thief. Her own dragon had finally arrived. Meanwhile, Ser Tyrell was negotiating on behalf of Aemond, discussing with the Triarchy Alliance. The other party was very arrogant. The situation in King's Landing was critical. They needed support before the war ended. However, the Alliance had no shortage of buyers for their tapestries and spices. The blockade by the Black faction had no effect on them. Thus, they demanded the stepstones. Tyrell quickly began to explain, the ownership of that place remains a mystery. Being pirates, once they obtain it, they will surely plunder ships, capturing slaves and goods. However, the other party remained resolute and made a promise. After gaining control, they would only levy a simple tax on passing ships, to make up for the losses they suffered while fighting the Valerian fleet. However, Tyrell knew that the pirates' appetites were definitely not that small. They would surely raise the prices of essential goods, but King's Landing was in too dire a situation, so he had no choice but to agree to these terms. Yet, in his heart, he still feared that if Aemon found out, he would hang him.
With the armada we send now, you can topple the Prince Regent and sit the Iron Throne yourself.
Just as Tyrell was about to leave, the pirates brought up another condition. Commander Loha of the fleet needed to agree to go with them personally. The sailors would only obey Loha's commands. When they arrived, it turned out the other party was actually a woman. After sizing him up, she was not satisfied with Tyrell. Tyrell stopped her and asked what was unsatisfactory. Then, to prove himself, he wrestled with Loha in the mud, but he was beaten without any ability to fight back. Surrounded by the mocking laughter of the pirates, the woman was impressed by his moves. She voluntarily decided to follow him into battle. That night, the pirates held a banquet, and Tyrell even sang for them. This further earned Loha's appreciation. Loha stood up and raised his cup, announcing that they would set off the next day to teach the sea snake a lesson.
You are a handsome man. I wish to have children by you.
Tyrell was completely confused. It turned out that Loha wanted him to sleep with his wives, which left Tyrell even more bewildered. He quickly asked how many wives Loha had. Inside King's Landing, Aemond was very unhappy. At this moment, Lares came to visit, urging Aemond to stay strong. They needed to leave King's Landing as soon as possible, and wouldn't return for a short while, because Rhaenyra had summoned 3 bastard dragon knights. Aemond went to investigate but was scared off. Later, feeling frustrated, he vented his anger on the town of Sharp Point, laying it to waste. Lares hoped Aemond would realize the urgency of the situation, as there was a high likelihood that if they didn't escape, Regent Prince Aemond would have them killed. After all, he had suffered losses. It was precisely when he was angry, but Aemond believed that while he was away, there was a chance to reclaim the throne. When Aemond returned, he planned to imprison him. Lares asked what would happen next. If Rhaenyra appeared with her 7 dragons, and the Greens lacked Vhagar, it would be a losing situation. Lares told Aemond that he had stashed most of the gold from Harrenhal in the Iron Bank of Bravos. They could use this wealth to lie low until everything passed. But Aemond was unwilling, as his dragon was dead and he was severely burned all over.
My cock is destroyed, did they tell you that? It burst in the flames like a sausage on a spit.
Lares advised him not to be pessimistic, saying that when both sides started killing each other, the people would fear the war. At that time, Aemond would surely be welcomed. The former King Aemond was convinced by him. On Dragonstone, Jacaerys found 2 bastard dragon knights sitting at the conference table chatting. Ulf had his legs propped on the table, and openly mocked Jacaerys for trying to stop him, commenting that his hair was as dark as the rumors. Jacaerys emphasized that his mother was a queen. Ulf said, "We are all dragon knights, you and I are the same." Shu quickly reassured them. Ulf didn't quite understand court etiquette, but Jacaerys was still very angry. He had just received news that Aemond had razed Sharp Point, leaving thousands unaccounted for and the harbor reduced to ashes. Could Ulf handle such an enemy being so brazen here? If his negligence led to the Black's failure, Jacaerys would hang him and toss his body into the streets to feed the dogs. After the 2 apologized, they quickly left. The next day, Rhaenyra found the sea serpent, although 3 new dragon masters have been added, but she still had concerns in her heart. She knew little about them. Only Adam was somewhat familiar. The sea serpent explained, "Adam is honest and can be trusted. Now that the dragons have a master, the advantage lies with the Black Party. We must be proactive. Rhaenyra prefers the dragons to be used for deterrence." The sea serpent advised her, "The Green Party still has Prince Daeron's dragon, and Helena's dream dragon is more threatening." But the queen laughed. Helena is not interested in riding dragons. The sea serpent further warned the queen, "The enraged Aemond will not stop at burning the horns, nor will he accept defeat." The queen agreed. She then asked about the condition of the sea serpent. The sea serpent told the queen, "The sea serpent has renamed his ship the Crownless Queen, in memory of his wife Rhaenys who died in battle. Everything he does now is for her." The sea serpent finally reminded the queen, she now has 6 dragons under her command, and her own fleet to command, but the Lannister and Hightower armies are advancing. Dealing with them requires striking at the core. Do not miss the opportunity. The Minister Bloom sent by Rennala has also arrived at Harrenburg, requesting a private conversation with Daemon. However, he instead expressed loyalty to Daemon, criticizing Queen Rennala for being too cautious. Now, at just one command from Daemon, they would support a new king. Daemon was surprised to find out he was a traitor. He simply smiled at Bloom and said nothing, then turned and left. Upon Aemon's return to Red Keep, his subordinates reported to him about his illegitimate son being taken away, and also mentioned that port inspections are now too strict. This will affect the work of fishing boats, making it harder for the people to get enough food. Aemond is unconcerned about this. Alicent and her daughter Helena are also discussing this matter. Helena feels she was happier before becoming queen. Just at this moment, Aemond arrives and discloses his intentions. Rennala has found new dragon masters, and now needs Helena to contribute to the country by riding the Dream Dragon into battle. Helena refuses, but Aemond warns her that in this critical time for the country, personal desires must be set aside for the preservation of the throne. Alicent stops her son, and directly points out his ambitions to rule the Seven Kingdoms, predicting that after being humiliated, he would unleash destruction and death upon the common people, and now he aims to ruin his sister Helena. With their thoughts going in opposite directions, Aemond is forced to leave temporarily. Later, Alicent seeks out the Grand Maester, asking for his help. On the other side, Cole is deep in thought. Suddenly, Cole is confronted by Galwyn, who points out his faults and questions him about why he climbed into his sister Alicent's bed, tarnishing the reputation of the Hotterell family. Cole doesn't show fear but instead explains to Galwyn that Alicent saved him twice, after which she became his guiding light. Upon hearing this, Galwyn lowers his sword.
And true honor is a mist that melts in the morning.
And Cole adds, all our thoughts and efforts are insignificant. We are heading towards our own destruction, and perhaps death is a form of liberation. Galwyn, deeply moved by this, finds himself speechless and simply sits beside Cole. Inside Dragonstone Island, Benira finds Jackaries and comforts him, saying that the matter of being a dragon rider as a bastard won't make them commoners. Jackaries is the legitimate son of the queen no matter what. Now, what he needs to do is not to dwell on resentment, but to rise up and stand at the queen's side in his exclusive position. Shortly after, Rennala hosts a feast to entertain the new dragon riders. She raises her glass to toast them, acknowledging that despite their humble origins, they have accomplished extraordinary feats. Yet, she commands them to regard this with reverence and loyalty. As long as they remain loyal to her, they will naturally become knights of the kingdom. The next task for the three individuals is to understand their respective dragons and learn the commands. 2 days later, they will ride the dragons into the sky to attack Old Town and Lannisport, where the armies must surrender entirely. While Vhagar is formidable, it is just a dragon, and Aemond cannot defend against all of them simultaneously. At that moment, a letter arrives from Harrenburg sent by Simmons. Daemon had gathered an army, and he was afraid that Daemon might rebel. When she heard this, she called for Adam. Daemon has already fallen asleep at this moment. Leah sits by his bedside. Daemon is startled awake and follows her outside. Under Leah's guidance, Daemon touches the weirwood tree. Instantly, he sees the future. Blood dragons dancing wildly amidst corpses. He falls into the water, even witnessing the dragon mother hatch 3 dragon eggs. In a daze, Daemon finds himself before Rennala with Helena standing behind him. When he comes to his senses, he is still standing in front of the great tree, but now he knows what he must do. On the other side, Helena stands on the city wall. As a dream speaker, she naturally sees glimpses of the future. Aemond invites his sister to go to Harrenburg together. Together, they can turn Daemon to ashes. In times of national crisis, she needs to step up proactively. Aemond pleads with his sister, tears welling in his eyes, but she still refused. She had foreseen it, Aemond erupting against Yging, while Helena made a prophecy. Yging will become king again, but he cannot see the victory. Aemond will be swallowed by the god's eye and disappear without a trace.
I could have you killed.
It wouldn't change anything.
After saying this, Helena turned and left. It is unknown whether she foresaw that this would be the last meeting of the siblings in this life. The next day, in the early morning, Rennala arrived at Harrenburg with Adam. After assessing the situation of the army's gathering, she landed first, while Adam remained on alert in the air. Simmons had been waiting there. He led Rennala into the castle, where Daemon emerged from the crowd. The couple reunited, and Daemon explained that these people had recently sworn loyalty to him. He
And to whom are you sworn?
stepped forward to explain that war was just the beginning. He had seen the future a few days ago, something they could not resist. Next, Daemon pledged loyalty to the queen. He and his followers would obey Queen Rennala, and the rest also knelt to show their allegiance. Rennala took her husband's hand, warning him that if he dared to leave her again, he would be finished. Demon also promised that there would not be a next time. On the other side, the sea serpent summoned first mate Aelin, wanting to advise him on how to lead the sailors. Unexpectedly, Aelin was very resistant to this. The sea serpent claimed he just wanted to help, which sparked Aelin's displeasure. He questioned the sea serpent, asking how many years had passed, and if this was the help he had provided. The two brothers grew up in a fatherless home, enduring ridicule and bullying from others. As he suffered, he watched his biological father and his legitimate heir pass by him. Now that all the legitimate children are dead, does he only remember his two illegitimate sons? Will he show favor, expecting gratitude in return? But Aelin rejected any help from the sea serpent. If he survives after the war, he will rely only on himself. Rennala and Melisaria stood on the city wall. Rennala hesitated. To achieve victory, she must take the initiative, even though it would result in many deaths. Melisaria urged the queen to be strong. Rennala could not let the kingdom fall into the hands of the villains. These people valued power over peace, so the queen had to emerge victorious. At night, Rennala lay in bed, finding it hard to fall asleep. Suddenly, a guard came in to report that Alicent had arrived. The roles had reversed between them. This time, it was Alicent who came to plead with her. Alicent just wants to survive. She wants to leave behind the plotting and fighting, taking her daughter and her child, abandoning everything to start anew. But Rennala found it ridiculous. It was too late now. Blood had already been shed. The armies had assembled, and only now did she want to stop. After a heated debate between the two, neither could persuade the other. Rennala asked her what her true purpose was in coming here. Alicent then revealed that Aemond would soon head to the Riverlands to meet with Cole. Helena, as queen, would govern. If Rennala were to come to King's Landing, she promised to have the guards disarm and surrender, voluntarily opening the gates without harming anyone. If Rennala were to ascend the throne, she must end this war. Rennala asked with a smile, "What about Aegon?" Alicent quickly explained that, although the child had made grave mistakes, he had drastically changed since then. She would persuade him to surrender. Rennala listened, visibly angered. Even at this point, Alicent was still advocating for Aegon. You can do as you please without having to pay a painful price for it. But should she have to lose her child because of this? Rennala emphasized to Alicent that, if she reclaimed the throne, she would end the lives of her enemies, cutting off Aegon's head in front of everyone. Alicent clearly understood but was avoiding the issue. Seeing her inability to make a decision, Rennala ordered Alicent to leave. At this moment, the dragon riders are prepared for battle. The main forces are also advancing. The dragons are keeping watch in the sky. Lords from various regions are responding. Tyrion is leading a fleet back to King's Landing. The Sea Serpent is also leading a fleet on its voyage. Larys has already fled King's Landing with Aegon. A major battle is inevitable. The above is the complete content of Season 2 of the Dragon Family. In this season, the Blood Dragon dance officially begins. The first princess without a crown dies in battle, and the conflict between the Black and Green parties becomes irreconcilable. To gain more military strength, Rennala gathers her illegitimate children to train dragons. While she acquires 3 dragon riders, she also lays the groundwork for betrayal to come. In the next season, the even more brutal battle of the God's Eye Lake is about to begin. I wonder what kind of visual and auditory experience it will bring us. And in the last episode of this season, it is likely that the sheep thief will be handed over to Benia. A subplot from the original work about Borage will be cut. Therefore, the most unique princess is about to ride a dragon into battle, which also increases anticipation for the upcoming story development. If you enjoy my channel, please consider subscribing.